Welcome back to Coffee Time with your host, the ex-Google, ex-Facebook tech lead. And today, I thought I would answer one of the most common questions people have for me, which is, why is it that I'm a millionaire as a millionaire? And there are so many misconceptions about money. For example, some people think that all you need to do is to learn coding, you land a six-figure job, you're getting paid $100K per year, and they think that that's what it takes to become rich. Whereas when you actually sit down to do the math behind this, you will come to realize that you cannot get rich through a 9-to-5 job like that. Let's go through the calculations. 100K per year. Now, 40% of that's going to go to tax, and let's assume you live in a 3K monthly apartment costing you 36K per year. That leaves you with just 25K per year. It would take you 40 years of savings working this job just to get to your first $1 million. And that's assuming that you're not spending at all. You're not spending on vacations, eating out at fancy restaurants, or driving new cars. Quick pause. This video is sponsored by Ting Mobile, a smarter, more modern cell phone service. If you're locked into some expensive cell phone plan that's overbilling you every month, then check out Ting Mobile, a low-cost, no-contract, pay-per-use cell phone plan. And for TechLead viewers, get a free $25 just for checking them out at techlead.ting.com. So that's the basic lifestyle that a six-figure income is going to buy you. And sure, maybe you could work a little harder, earn a little bit more, but barring getting into some top-tier tech company like Facebook or Google, in which they're actually going to pay you some top-tier salaries, then your chances of getting to $1 million, I think, is basically a 9-to-5 job is not going to get you there. And I know some people will say, well, what about compounding? The magic of compounding. If I save $1 per year every year and I gain an 8% interest compounded annually, then I'll become a millionaire by the age of 60. Well, what you're forgetting is that there's also inflation. And inflation at about 3% per year. Inflation also compounds. And so in reality, I think that what really sets you on the path towards being a millionaire is the habits and lifestyle that you adopt. In short, it's a long struggle, and it's not the type of thing where you can just sit down, hustle for 6 months, and then wake up one day and you'll be a millionaire overnight. It's going to be more of a marathon, a multi-year journey, and one that you need to adapt your lifestyle to match. You see, I was recently reading this book, Atomic Habits, and the author presents the idea that long-lasting internal change does not come from actions, but rather they come from habits that you can internalize. And that makes sense because when you think about people trying to lose weight, well, maybe they'll go on a diet of just broccoli, lettuce, and carrots, and maybe they can sustain that for a month, maybe 2 months. But at the end of that, they have to go back to eating their normal food. And then at that point, they regain all of their weight, and the diet was really just a phase in their lifetime that's not really long lasting. And so what the author says you really need is not just a one-time action, but a long-lasting habit that you integrate into your lifestyle. And actually, the book goes on to say that actions are formed by good habits, and habits, well, they're formed by your identity. And so the idea is you have to change who you are, your identity. If you want to be a millionaire, then you have to do more than just earn $1 million, because chances are, even if you were to earn that money, you would probably go out and splurge it, buy a Lamborghini, go to Vegas and blow it all on slot machines, because a lot of these people, they're focused way too much on consumption, and that money is not going to last. And so the secret is that in order to become a millionaire, you have to actually become a millionaire. And so I thought I would spend a moment to go over some of my habits that have made me successful in my lifetime. And first up is to pride yourself on execution. A lot of people out there are idea people, and they think that their ideas are so valuable. They think they're a genius for coming up with this great idea, and they're saying, okay, why don't you make Uber for Airbnb? And yeah, maybe that's a great idea, and then they never go out and build on it. And many of these people, they're not even going to share their ideas with you unless you sign a 10-page NDA. In fact, I get so many emails like this. People will come to me and say, I have a great idea for you. I want you to build it. I came up with the idea, and we split the profits 50-50. But no, that's not really how it works. Rather, I'm the type of person who has always prided myself on execution. Why is execution so important? Well, simply put, it's because the idea at some point or another will fail. The idea can only take you so far to a certain point in time, and chances are there's probably somebody else out there who already has a similar idea, or there could be a competitor who will see what you're trying to build and then quickly execute on that and build another clone. Many times you'll see that in the marketplace. The winner is not necessarily the one with that first mover advantage, but it is the person who's able to execute on an idea the best. And so speaking of which, that book, Atomic Habits, kind of mentioned this, which is to not confuse motion for action. So what's the difference between these two? Well, motion is basically the idea of just putting yourself in movement, like reading blogs, newspapers, articles, studying up on resources, watching YouTube videos, learning about things. Now that's all motion, and it lures you into a false sense of productivity where you think you're getting something done, but you're actually taking zero action. It's important to remember that all news that you read is not productive because it is still consumption. When you're actually taking action and applying the information that you have learned, that is action. And usually this involves some form of public humiliation where you put your ideas out there and it can either succeed or fail. And when you stop to think about it, you'll see that I would say 99.9% of people never execute once in their lifetimes. Most people who are geniuses full of ideas have never brought a single product to market because they're afraid of that public failure. Now, the second thing you need to realize is you need to go 10x. You have to learn to scale yourself and operate at an order of magnitude much greater than what you're currently operating at. A lot of common strategies for getting rich, like saving money, clipping coupons, investing in your Roth IRA, shopping for Black Friday deals, investing in those slow-growing assets like bonds, your 401k, or even collecting credit card points and miles. Now, while all of those may be fun hobbies, you should leave it at that because they are not the means through which you're going to make yourself a millionaire. There are no YouTubers who became millionaires simply by not drinking Starbucks coffees and making their own iced coffees at home. Or are there? But either way, the idea is the same. And in fact, I'm puzzled by the strange craze recently where everybody is really into their stimulus checks. Everyone's researching this stuff. People are spending hours or days or weeks just understanding stimulus checks, when in reality, your stimulus check is not going to save you. If your whole future is being bet on food stamps, nobody ever got rich from collecting food stamps or stimulus checks. It just doesn't work that way. But my message for you is to be very careful about selling your own time. In fact, if you were to do a quick back of the envelope calculation on the value of your time, okay, let's think about this. In order to make $100,000 per year, and let's assume that you're working Monday to Friday, 5 days a week, 8 hours a day, what does the value of your time need to be at? All right, so you would need to be earning $52 per hour or about $400 per day. And that's just to get 100K per year. Now, let's say you wanted to earn 500K per year, equivalent to what I was making over at Facebook. How much would you need to value your time at? Well, you would need to be earning about $2,000 per day or charging $250 per hour, approximately. And so when you stop to think about that, if you are selling your time for anything less than that, and you're not building up any accumulated skill or investing in yourself, building up anything long-term throughout that process, then you are essentially just plateauing. You're not making any progress towards any higher goal. Like, for example, if you're working as a waiter for $25 an hour or driving Uber cars, then your earning rate is about 10x lower than what it needs to be in order to get to, say, 500K per year. Now, this equation changes somewhat if you have the Uber driver listening to audiobooks while they're driving around, and then they're starting to build up some skill, some information, and maybe after some time they would have acquired sufficient information, inspiration would have struck, and they'd be able to launch their own business, perhaps. But aside from that, if there's no other residual value that you're gaining, you're simply trading away your time for a little bit of cash, then I would consider perhaps getting out of that business. Now, my third point for you is about playing the part of a millionaire, or at least acting like one, even if you're not quite one yet. And that may have to do with freeing up sufficient large amounts of time for yourself to spend a lot of time in front of the computer. I spend a lot of time in front of the computer, even if sometimes I've got nothing to do. I'll just sit there thinking about what I can work on, what type of business idea I can come up with. Because the thing is, if you don't even carve out sufficient time for yourself, I would say 3 to 4 hours to sit in front of a computer to work on your business. And maybe you don't even have a business, but your imaginary business. You want to give yourself time to work on that, because if every day you're busy from morning to evening and you're just hanging out with friends, reading books, playing video games, checking up your social media, baking a cupcake, calling your friends, and then you're ending the evening by watching 2 full-length feature films back to back, then you've simply just got no time for any of this stuff. Like, your life is already pretty much set the way you've created it, and you don't have time to try to even become a millionaire. Let me give you an example. Do you remember when Diablo 3 came out? Well, when that game came out, I was so excited for that I just cleared out my whole entire schedule such that I would have sufficient time to play that game and become very good at it. And in fact, I even quit my job. That's how serious this was for me, because I knew that was how much time I would need to play the game, and that's how you know I was prepared and ready and serious for this. In order to become successful, you need to understand that success is a hobby in and of itself, and success requires time. and you need to clear out time for it. I would say 3 to 4 hours per day, kind of like a new hobby like motorcycling or sailing or rock climbing. And if you were to put in 4 hours dedicated to your own success every single day, I mean, I would be hard pressed to imagine anybody would not attain some level of success if they were to put in that commitment. 2 more things. Number 1 is to develop a habit in yourself of questioning the rules, because you'll find that good entrepreneurs, people who are able to start their own businesses, have a tendency to question the way things are, to question authority, and to kind of bend a few rules here and there, because entrepreneurs tend to disrupt things. They change the status quo. They don't accept things the way they are. Maybe there's some better way to do things, to really get to the source of truth towards first principles and to think about why things are the way they are and if you can change it. And, there's this one story I remember, which is that when people start making money, when entrepreneurs start making real money, it feels like robbing a bank because they're just making so much money and it doesn't even sound fair. There's a sense of moral guilt when they've found a way to escape the rat race and everybody else is still trapped inside that rat race. And so that's kind of a mentality that I would suggest successful people kind of get used to, and to break their own minds free of the cage first before they're able to physically break free of that. And then the 5th thing I want to remind you of is to understand that social status and respect is something that is going to hold you back. Because the thing is, number 1, failure is bound to come. There's going to be a whole bunch of public failure. Before I built my first app that was a millionaire success story, I had built 20 failed apps. And I hear this story often, which is that entrepreneurs will tell you that your first 3 ventures will probably fail. That's probably just going to be a given. So just account for that. It's not going to be a pretty time. The type of people who are after the social status, going around in a suit, looking good, being a popular person, going to conferences and having everybody swarm up around you, the sort of status-seeking behavior is just generally not that well aligned with entrepreneurship, where there's going to be a lot of struggle and it's going to be something that requires a lot of determination. So, ready to become a millionaire? Start your good financial habits with a smarter, more modern cell phone service at techlead.ting.com and get a free $25 just for checking them out. See, I used to spend $50 to $80 per month just on cell phone service, thinking that was the only way I could get service, thinking there was no other better option, when in fact there are more modern pay-per-use contractless cell phone plans. These days, I don't even use phone calls all that much, so why should I pay for that? Most of my communication actually happens to be through the internet using data, so it would be through emails or social media. And so that's where a pay-per-use cell phone plan really comes in handy. It makes sense because you only pay for what you need, and setup is very simple. You pay them $1, they ship you a SIM card. You just put the SIM card into your phone and you're pretty much ready to go. Plus, they'll give you a free $25 just for checking out the service. So it's a great deal. Check them out over at techlead.ting.com. Now, before I wrap this up, I wanted to close with a discussion on the meaning of life, because it's not that hard to figure out, actually. I think I pretty much got it, in fact. So when you think about it this way, if you were to spend all of your time making money, money is simply paper, right? It's like toilet paper for me, basically. And so by the end of your life, when you have put all of your time and effort and resources into attaining some wealth, you would have traded away everything that you had for money, for paper, really. And that, I would say, is not really a great trade. Because when you think about it, your most valuable resource is not money. Your most valuable resource, anybody's most valuable resource, is time. And the goal is to attain money without losing too much of your time, because, well, money without time to enjoy it is useless. Now, speaking of enjoyment, I've also had this revelation that, for a long time, I would always wish to be happy. I wanted happiness. And I think many of us wish for happiness as well. We think that, well, maybe the meaning of life is happiness. But when you stop to think about it, happiness can be easily obtained, right? Like, just take some drugs, right? It's a very simple chemical reaction in your brain. Just inject some dopamine into your brain, take a few drugs, and you're going to be happy. But at the same time, we all know it's going to be something sort of empty, not really worthwhile. In fact, another thing you can do quite easily, and this is something I wonder why some people don't do, is couldn't people just go to Southeast Asia, sit on the beach, and they'll be able to do that probably indefinitely. The cost of living is so cheap there that if you wanted to just drink alcohol and sit on the beach all day long for the rest of your life, you could probably do that in Southeast Asia somewhere. Why don't people just go to Bali and do a bunch of drugs? And then actually, there's a bunch of people there who are doing that, but the majority of normal people aren't going to be doing that, I would say, because they're seeking something more in life, which maybe has to do with fulfillment. I would call it inspiration, perhaps. Chasing what inspires you. I think it's something that's going to fulfill your soul far more than going after something like happiness or money. So that'll do for me, but let me know what you think the meaning of life is in the comments below. I read all the comments. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a like and subscribe. I really appreciate that, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks. Bye.